Okay, hello all you crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games, and let's make some games. So this is tower defense. It is starting to look like a tower defense game. You have a couple towers. You can shoot things at enemies, which are coming through on a schedule. There's also some half finished graphical things going on, such as the ability to like create things in the game world, because I like level editors. And you can spawn in trees and stuff. That's pretty nice. This is going to be another gameplay week, I think. So I've been thinking about how I want this game to work a little bit over the last few weeks since I recorded the last video, and I think I'm going to go with like level upgrades for foes and for towers and stuff like that. I'm not going to be creating any hard numbers today. I'm not going to say, okay, this enemy has exactly 25 base HP, and this is going to be the equation to determine how much a level 5 enemy has, but I am going to set up the systems that will allow me to do that in the future. Later on, and I don't know exactly when, looking through my plans here, I will probably spend a video just in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets or something, since that's a little bit more universal, and figure out what I think good exact values for all of those things are going to be, because that is definitely a big part of the actual game development, whereas realistically everything in this series that I've done has been more of technical development than gameplay feel. Anyway, let's get started with that. Where are my where are all of my things? This is kind of the base class for a lot of stuff. Towers, foes, okay. Let's start with foes. So we have, the last video was all about creating stat mods. So if you use a power up or build some kind of beneficial tower nearby, it will cause other towers within its radius to increase their attack speed or something like that, I believe is what I went with, because it's a little bit more visible than increasing like attack strength or something. And today we're going to go with levels. Have I created a variable yet to determine things like levels? It doesn't look like I have. Oh, I have. It's at the top here. All right, that's fantastic. Now it's also got some calculated stats. So it's got some defense, some magic defense, and some speed. Once again, and I've been trying to say this in every video, I won't promise that things like defense and magic defense will actually be used. They're mostly there as kind of a formality, because it's generally easier to have values in a game and not use them than it is to not write them in initially and then later on decide that you want them and try and go and change all your code in all the appropriate places. At least for me. For some other people, it might be the other way around. So how do I want this to work? So I want the active defense, the actual defense, whatever you want ACT to stand for. I generally think it stands for active. It could stand for actual if you want. These are the variables which are used by other parts of the game's code to determine how much damage things do and how fast they move and all that good stuff. And I want this to, if this was a properly object-oriented programming language, I would be talking about interfaces right now, but this is not a properly object-oriented language, so I can't really say the word interface. I'll just have to make do with what the language gives me and adhere to my own coding standards, is what it's going to boil down to. I'm going to create some additional functions, and those are going to be, let's say, calc defense, or I guess def, because that's the terminology that I'm going with. Once again, adhering to my own coding standards. Actually, hang on. I can make this font size bigger, by the way. Gotta do that in every video, apparently. Okay, I'm going to make this not take a parameter, but I am going to simply have it return a value. Let's say return base defense times level. And this is going to be a very simple stack growth equation. And we can do the same thing for the other ones. You're going to be magic defense, and you're going to be speed. Again, if you're not familiar with past videos in the series, I usually do Pascal case for method names in structs. or just in general for method names, because I like C#, and that is the naming convention that C# does. Generally, the rest of GameMaker is snake case, which is using underscores instead of capital letters. So now, instead of looking at the base defense, base magic defense, whatever, directly inside the inside these set modifier functions, we can instead look at calculate defense and calculate magic defense and calculate speed. And likewise, when the values are initially set, let's call those as well instead of looking at the actual values. And this is going to cause an issue, which happens to do with the order that code is executed in, which I will address momentarily. So this is going to crash. The reason for that being that at this point in code, the calcdef, calcmdef functions are not defined yet. So when I launch the first wave, you can see variable not set before reading it. That's always a lovely error message to get. So let's just define those at the bottom after the methods have been defined, because remember, methods are just variables that store functions in them and are bound to an instance. So now if I run the game, things will go better if the game ever starts. There we go. So we are at the same place that we were before. I believe everything is I believe all waves are launched with a level of 1. Enemies are created with a level of 1. Where are the waves defined? They should be in here somewhere. New wave. Okay. And then when you spawn something, oh, the waves have a level built in, and that level is indeed 1. Okay. So that's nice. We can, just for a little bit of variety, let's make the second wave level 2 or something. Once again, these are not hard numbers. It doesn't have to, the levels of each foe doesn't have to correspond with the wave number. I will address that in the future. For now, so that we can actually see that anything's happening, I'm reasonably confident that what I want to happen is happening, because this isn't the most complex code ever. But I will say, let's just print out a value. Show debug message, and let's look at the current defense value of each foe as it spawns in. So every time a new ant spawns in, we will see its defense value, and it should just be the base defense. That is a 0. Should that be 0? Have ants been defined to have 0 defense? I thought they had like 1. Oh, okay. Someone sent me a message on Reddit. I'll deal with that later. These guys have 1 defense. What about the second wave? Okay, the red guys have 2 defense. And that is likely because they are, I guess I set them to pill bugs at level 2, so 1 times 2 is, yeah, there we go. 1 times 2 is 2. So that math is working. That's pretty, I'm happy about that. I would like to mirror that change for towers using a similar system. Copying and pasting is usually a good way to have accidents happen, but let me do the same thing over here. So this will be rate, range, and damage instead of defenses and speed. Rate, range, and damage. We can update all of the variables that it is looking at, and once again, instead of looking at the base values directly, we will be calculating each of their things, and the same for the initially calculated stats. All right. Range, and the last one was damage, right? So I don't have to scroll down, copy and paste, and scroll back up. Let's see, to avoid the same issue I had with enemies. Let's just go ahead and define those at the bottom. If you want, you can print out the values. These guys have a level. Oh, these guys do not have a level. Towers don't have a level, so towers will spawn in at level 1. On the assumption that they may get stronger, they'll as the game progresses, either if they were to gain experience or something, or if you were to upgrade them, as is usually the case in tower defense games, by spending currency on them. Let's do this. All right, so we are going to build a tower. Let's say here. Send that in. I see your base damage is, or base fire rate or whatever is 1. You are having a hard time catching up to the enemies. That is a buffing tower. Let's build a faster shooting guy there. Yeah. All right. Well, all those leaked through. That's too bad. Let's build another one and send in the next wave. Oh, you guys are scooting. Why did I make pillbugs move so fast? Pillbugs are slow. Anyway, that's some stats. The next thing I might want to do is, let's say, give each tower an upgrade method. Yeah, you do not have an upgrade method, or a level up, or something like that. Whatever you want to call it, terminology. Let's define one. Call it level up. This function. We're gonna say level plus plus, and we are going to recalculate all of our stats. So the stat mod shouldn't change when you level up, although possibly, I don't know, it's conceivable that if you had like a stat penalty on a tower or something, like if you got hit by an attack by an enemy and you had your attack cut in half or something, you might want that to be erased when you level up. That is generally an RPG thing, but I will not be spending too much time considering things like that at the current moment. Again, the exact specifics of the equations and all that can be decided later. Instead, I'm just going to recalculate all stats when I level up. So we will, I do not have an interface, a user interface for towers or anything yet. I do want to do that soonish. User interfaces are not my favorite thing to make in games, but it is something that is rather essential at some point or another, so I will have to take care of it later. To test things, I can always just say during the update loop, if you hit like the tab key or something, I don't think I'm using the tab key for anything, all towers will level up. Am I using the tab key? I do not see. Not in the not in gameplay mode anyway. So if you hit the tab key for testing purposes, we will loop over the tower list, and we will upgrade each of the things. So all towers.level up, and just so that we can see that it is happening, we will let's see, where are the entities? We will print out a message. And we will so that we can see a number going up. Let's also print out the fire rate or something. I generally don't think it's critical inside methods to use the self keyword. Again, that is code style. That is kind of the code style I have been going with in the series. Instance methods in the constructor itself are prefixed with self, and instance variables inside methods are not. I think that's what I've been going with for the most part anyway. It doesn't really matter to the computer if you use the self keyword on a variable that is already an instance variable. If you are a fan of having like non-ambiguous code, very clean code style, you might want to leave it there for everything, but like JavaScript is a language that forces you to use self for all instance variables, otherwise it'll crash. I think some other languages do as well. I know in C# it's there, but it's not enforced like in GML. Anyway, so I'm gonna build a few towers, and I'm gonna hit the tab key to level them up, and we will see if everyone's attack goes up. Let's upgrade both there. Let's see the spacebar to launch a wave. Oh, they're getting mowed down, aren't they? Let's launch 2 waves, and the tab key. Oh, the tab key is for toggling edit mode. I should use another key, but you can see you can see things are being printed out down there. The fire rate is going way up as I level things up. That is a pure insanity. All right, this feels like a tower defense game now, huh? All right. Anyway, that works. You can see the numbers going up, and honestly, I don't need this anymore because I've seen what I want to see. What else is there? I should probably look at my my notes. Okay, so I made a note to point out that there are generally 2 schools of thought for tower stats. One is to have stats calculated by an equation, which is basically what I'm doing now. The equation is very simple. It's base times level. The other would be to have a exact stat defined for each level. So say you're allowed to have like towers up to level 5, and you have stats defined for levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I have gone with the former. And my past self from a month ago said I'm probably going to do the latter. And I have decided that I will not be listening to my past self. Okay, that's fine. Let me just cross that out. Alright, foes, same thing. Although you generally would rather have foes stats defined by equation rather than discrete upgrades, because foes may have their level increase without bound very late in the game. Make a complete semi-balanced level by the end of the video. I think I have time for that. Should I put some more thought into waves? All right, I guess I'll do that. Let's put some thoughts into waves. So right now there are 2 waves. There are ants and pillbugs. I'm going to stay with those 2 types of enemies, but I will be increasing the difficulty in other ways. Like I said, for like the 3rd or 4th time or whatever I'm on, gameplay balance is a concern for future videos. Right now, I'm still doing technical things. Let's think of some other ways to increase the difficulty, though, or let's come up with something that'll just generally get harder between the beginning and end. So let's say I make 5 waves, and we can start with ants, which are generally easier. The pillbugs look like red ants. You know what? Hang on. I have the ability to do programmer art. Let's draw something that looks like a pillbug. And also actually make them slower and give them more HP or something, because that is what you would generally expect from something that looks like that. Let's pick a nice color. You can be like a brownish. Pillbugs are often called woodlouse in other dialects of English. And they're, alright, let's make them actually sort of shaped like a pill. That looks far too much like a silverfish. I'm gonna draw them head on. Let's give you a little, like, black legs or something. Thanks, I hate it. That is the wrong color. I am a very good artist. Okay, I don't know what that looks like, but it looks like something that's different from an ant, so we'll be going with it. Okay. I also said, what is your speed? Are you really the same speed as the regular ants? Let's drop that down to 50. And you have more HP. And the point of defense. 2 points of defense. I'll go with 8 points of defense. Okay. So we now have a level. There are no tower upgrades, but It might be interesting if every tower just automatically gains a level at the end of each wave, but that's, I don't want to do anything that's, like, too ambitious, different, anything at this point. Let's see. I do not have an indication of exactly where the range of a tower starts and stops, so I don't know if this guy over here is within range of the buff tower. That was sort of a waste because I believe only, oops, the first one started and then I immediately hit the space bar before I noticed it, and now both of them launched at the same time. All right, the brown things are getting mowed down. Okay, you guys are going faster. That's right. When things level up, their speed will also increase, which may not be something I want. I may want the speed to remain the same because if you have a level 50 foe and it's just gonna blaze through the level before anything's able to even target it, that might not be super good for gameplay purposes. I died. All right, so I lost my own level. Let me I said I wasn't gonna do this, but because every stat can have its own upgrade equation, let me at least. Alright, speed is just going to be a constant value with the base speed. It's not going to go with level. I thought about making it like something fancy like the square root or the base 2 logarithm of the level or something like that, so it'll go up but not as fast, but that is something for another day. Okay, so these guys are coming around. They are getting mowed down. I would like to do level design sometime. I would like sometime soonish. Like proper level design, not program art level design. I would like to let's send in the next wave. You know, for a challenge, let's send in 2. Ooh, do I still have that bug where if you start one wave, the previous one will terminate? I should probably take care of that. All right, the end of the video will involve taking care of that. What was I saying? Like, I want to actually at least see the path where these things are walking and probably have some decorative trees. I commented out the code that loads levels from files because it's kind of distracting when you're trying to work on some certain things, but certainly in the future. Can I start the next one, or was that it? Certainly in the future, it'll, I want to stop looking at this checkerboard grid, basically, is what it boils down to. Anyway, let's see what's going on with waves. First, I will commit this change, which is really one big change. Let's not include these changes in the commit. Let's just include the this is a bug in Game Maker where certain lines in the project file get duplicated every time. It doesn't affect how the game actually works, but it's kind of annoying for source control. Hopefully sooner rather than later that will be fixed, and I guess the 2.3.1 update is when the next one is due out, probably in October, November. Alright, calculate stats based on level for towers and foes. And then the rest of the stuff, I will fix the bug. No, I'm gonna commit this first. And then I will fix the bug where calling in one wave early cancels the previous one. I kind of feel like it would be a fun challenge where if you just mash the spacebar at the beginning of a game and summon every single wave in the game at once, should be some kind of risk reward, makes the game much harder, but you could potentially have a nice payoff sort of thing. I did that a lot in the game known as Gemcraft. It was fun. Seeing if you could just build defenses and stand up against a onslaught of enemies. Where would that be? That would be in probably the wave class, right? Actually, where are waves updated? Okay, so wave current is what I'm looking for, probably in the step event. Okay. I'm going to restructure this slightly. I'm not going to keep track of the current wave. But what I am going to do... Alright, what I am going to do is create a list of active waves. So instead of in a sense, this will be instead of having one current wave, we can have as many as we want. So we're essentially just converting wave current into a list, into a DS list, and changing the name to something that's more fitting. What did I just call the variable? I cannot remember. Wait, waves active. Alright, I'm nitpicking my own code style here. I want it to look like the other variables, but I also want it to be plural, because it is a plural variable, because you can have more than one. Alright, we're just gonna go with that. And it will be launching. And then instead of saying if this variable contains a value, we will be looping over what was it called? My God. Wave active. And we will simply be having an update. We can say so that the values are removed from the list. Let's see, is finished can be another method. I do see in some places I put semicolons on the end of method definitions and not in others. Like I've mentioned a couple times here and there, I'm starting to get in the habit of doing that. There's not really a reason to. GameMaker doesn't enforce semicolons anyway, and it's not something you often see on the end of methods, but I guess it's just because of the fact that something is being assigned. I want to have a semicolon on the end of that. I don't really know. I'm not going to put that much thought into it. Return. Has there been a started? All right, so for the this is a case of doing something correctly versus doing something in the real world. This function, this finish function, is only really ever going to be called after the wave has already been launched when you're checking to see if it's finished. So for those purposes, all you have to do is say if wave running equals false. But in theory, if you were to call this function before the wave starts, running would also be false, and the finish value would return true. The finish method would return true if you were to call it, which isn't really what you want. I wish I wouldn't, like, change my code so often, but instead of saying running, I will keep a status, and then, like, I will define a set of wave statuses. Which are something like not starting, running, and finish. And those are just going to be an enumerated value constant for 0, 1, and 2. I don't really care what the actual values are as long as I can compare them to the enum. So status is going to be ewave statuses.not started. And then when you launch the wave, instead of checking running, we can say ewave statuses dot running. And then when you're finished, ewave statuses dot finished. And then down at the bottom. Okay, you know what? What am I doing? This is massively overcomplicating things. GML doesn't have variable protection levels. I can just access this variable directly. All right. The other thing I need to do is, instead of... I do need to replace any reference to the running variable I have, so that includes things like the update check if you're running. I also don't know if it appears anywhere else. Okay. It's not used anywhere outside of this, outside of the wave class, which is good. You know, on that note, maybe, oops, I did not mean to do that. I just undid all my work. On that note, having a finished method for that is not the worst thing in the world, because now status is not to be accessed out anywhere outside this class, and it's effectively a private variable. Someday, maybe I should probably make a video on like variable access and the lack thereof in GML, but that someday is not today. Okay. So what we can do is if wave active index I dot finished, we can do something such as remove it from the list, ds list delete. The ID of the list is wave active, and the position is going to be I. If you've written a certain amount of code, this probably bothers you. This for loop probably bothers you. Removing an element from a list as you are iterating over it probably bothers you. The reason for that being that if this line of code runs, all of the successive elements in the list will be shifted down one, and at best an element will be skipped, and at worst, depending on the specifics of the language, you might accidentally try to access something that is... You might try to accidentally access an index that is not in the list, and you will have some kind of undefined error. The easiest way to take care of that is to iterate over the list backwards. So I equals 1, I equals the size of the list minus 1, I is greater than or equal to 0, and I minus minus. Going over it backwards will avoid that issue, because if anything in the list is shifted backwards, it will already have been processed. And you won't have any synchronization errors. God, I hate synchronization errors. Okay, so now the end result of that should be that we're allowed to have multiple waves spawning at the same time. So let me run the game and hit the spacebar a couple times, and you can see these guys are all spewing out of the start at the same time, out of the starting gate, and they are not overwriting each other, and that is good. So I just spent half the video doing what I thought I was going to do, and half the video fixing that particular error. All right, fantastic. I think that's all I really want to do here. Let me commit that change as well. And I think I'm going to call it here. All right, there are 3 commits there. That's nice. Oh, I did not notice that in GitHub Desktop, commits can be marked as releases. That's cool, because I've been doing that after every video, as in like week 1, week 2, whatever. Anyway, my name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. This has been making a tower defense game in GameMaker Studio 2.3 using structs and all that other goodness that comes with them. The code for this is in the video description. Look for the 0.13 release, because we are 13 weeks into this project somehow. Time flies when you're having fun. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute towards these videos being made, there's links to that in all the usual places. Otherwise, I try to make a couple game dev videos a week, one of these, and 1 or more tutorials. I hope you found that interesting. If you have any suggestions or anything, let me know. There was one that I don't remember if I addressed, and I probably should, and that has to do with the efficiency of using structs for everything. I should talk about that soon, probably, but today I've gone on for long enough. I will see you all later. Special thanks to Edward Holt, IndiePunch, PoshoDev, and Zenith for supporting these videos. If you want your name in the credits and to force me to say them out loud at the end, head over to the Patreon page in the video description and join the fun.